It's cold, distant, mysterious, and largely misunderstood. Adjectives which describe the continent at the bottom of the world. There are no native people in Antarctica. Frankly, not many of any kind of people. No government. The natural resources have been left alone. There are few man-made scars. It's hard to get here. Sometimes it seems even harder to stay here. It is a place of extremes, extreme cold and extremely beautiful. We arrived aboard the Society Explorer, a cruise ship, a science platform, and sometimes a floating embassy. Getting to Antarctica is an endurance exercise. You go across the U.S., south over South America, to its very tip. From there, from Chile, we set sail with expectations of penguins and icebergs. One big thing still stood between us and Antarctica, the Drake Passage, 600 miles of the most turbulent ocean on Earth. It's where the Pacific and the Atlantic slam into one another. During the passage, well, we were seasick, so we'll demonstrate what it was like. There is no high pressure in this part of the world, just a series of low pressure areas which attract one storm after another. The first hit us 12 hours into the Drake Passage. At the storm's height, the Society Explorer rode atop, and many times below, 46-foot swells. The winds were over 50 knots. Everyday stuff, though, for Captain Heinz Eye, a veteran of 98 crossings of the roughest stretch of ocean in the world.
Let's say I like the challenge and the mystic and the feeling between the fingerprints to do things which other captains mostly not attempt. I like to this kind of adventure and expedition to be on several places in the world, the first, and to show passengers really hidden corners of the world.
We survived, a little bruised, a little green, but mostly intact, and ready for our first Antarctic landing. Landing, that's a ship's term for boarding an inflatable boat and splashing through 32-degree water to get ashore. The trip is always wet. The wet is always cold. This is a spot called Copacabana, a Brazilian research station, a place alive with ghosts. The ghosts of Yankee whalers who left Connecticut and found whales and their fortunes at what surely must have seemed like the end of the world. It was the end of the world for so many people who came here to unlock the mysteries of Antarctica. These 4 graves belonged to men who undoubtedly knew the risks of polar living, but they came anyway. They had questions. They were all scientists, all British. They died separately. The elements killed them. It hasn't deterred the new generations of researchers from coming.
My experience really in the Antarctica is that I feel safer here, curiously enough, than most other places, because I'm always aware that bad things can happen to you, whether it be falling into a crevasse or slipping off an ice floe and things of this sort. And I've had a lot of close shaves.
Antarctica is inviting, but there's nothing friendly about it. It can be assaulting, as simple as a dive-bombing Arctic tern protecting its eggs. Or as violent as the bitter cold of winter.
Where I overwintered, we had temperatures in the -40s. Not all that low, perhaps, but low enough that when accompanied by a strong wind, you really have to be very, very careful not to get frostbite.
How are these for some numbers? In the winter, Antarctica can be 100 degrees below zero, and the winds could be howling well over 100 miles an hour. In the summer, a much friendlier place, maybe 80-mile-an-hour winds, and a temperature in the 20s.
In a bad blizzard where you have horizontal snow being blown and visibility completely disappears, you have what we call whiteout conditions. You can literally get lost within yards of your hut if you just wander off.
This building provided shelter against winters like that as recently as the early 1980s. It's already been reduced to a snow-filled ruin. Kitchen contents are intact.
An old can of very moldy Scotch oats.
The ghosts are younger here. Antarctic living attracts a certain breed of men and women. Undoubtedly daring, unafraid of the cold, willing to accept the loneliness. It is lonely. Only 20 or 30 people per station through the winter. The people at Copacabana will have videotapes, perhaps ping pong, Trivial Pursuit and such. A far cry from earlier this century, explorers like Scott and Amundsen ate penguins and seal. They sailed aboard schooners instead of helicopter-equipped ice cutters. The early explorers got by with dogs, not tractors. But the people were probably very similar, in search of the land no one knows a lot about. Things haven't changed that much. It's hard to imagine a more appealing animal than this. Hard to imagine an animal better suited to cope with its environment. Penguins are the first thing you see as you approach Antarctica. The last thing you see as you leave. There are 17 species, all native to south of the equator, with as many endearing qualities as there are birds. They are birds. They don't fly anymore. Long ago, they gave up their wings for flippers. They swim. Boy, do they swim. Coming out of the water to grab a breath this way is called porpoising. Frank Todd objects to the term, thinks it should be called penguining. Frank Todd knows about as much about penguins and their habits as anyone you'll find. He's been coming to Antarctica since the early 70s, living amongst the birds. Now the penguins are living amongst us in San Diego. Frank Todd is responsible for that. He designed the penguin encounter at SeaWorld. In 1972, the National Science Foundation asked Todd if he could establish a colony of Antarctic penguins for research.
Of course, back in those days, we had no idea whether something like this was feasible or not. So I said, sure, we'll take a look at it. And I spent 3 or 4 seasons in the Antarctic, determined the feasibility, worked out the parameters with regards to biomass, how many penguins we need, the kinds of facilities and so forth. And now, you know where we are today with penguin encounters all over the country.
From importing a few penguins and keeping them going in a freezer to establishing a flourishing population, which reproduce just like back at home. It took a lot of work, a lot of trips to the southern hemisphere, crawling about in penguin droppings, learning.
See the brood patch here? This area is where the egg tucks right up against, keeps the temperature of the egg up.
More than 15 years, and Todd still learns from the rookeries he's been studying. He still photographs and jots down observations constantly, and he still comes upon surprises. These birds are called skuas, predatory birds which target penguin colonies. They snatch eggs when they can, and baby birds don't stand a chance if the parent leaves the nest for even a moment. They are generally cantankerous creatures who would rather fight than give way to a scientist.
And if it's a defensive pair, you'll find out how active skuas can be in defending their nest, but it might not be. It looks like a very mellow pair.
Not only are these friendlier than most, there's a surprise under the female on the nest.
Here are the 2 skua eggs and a penguin egg.
Where there should be 2 skua eggs, there's a third, a perfectly healthy chin-strapped penguin egg. Instead of eating it, this pair is incubating it.
I've never seen anything quite like it before.
Antarctica is full of surprises. When the penguin that occupies this nest returns, he'll find his nest is gone. Curious thing about penguins, they can have the best nest in the world, but the temptation to steal a neighbor's stones is too strong to resist. These are the kind of things Frank Todd watches, and he has learned from them. He shipped Antarctic stones to SeaWorld in San Diego, and when it was time for his local penguins to breed, they were so excited they jumped into the wheelbarrow and started hauling them off before they could be dumped. Not all penguins build nests. These king penguins carry them around on their feet and warm them with a fold of blubber-filled skin. Like many other types, king penguins were slaughtered by early seal hunters. They were eaten and their blubber used to build fires. They're making a comeback, at least partially, because other animals were slaughtered as well.
But they definitely are increasing, and there is some thought on the part of some people that the removal of the baleen whales, in other words, when they slaughtered out all of the great whales, the blue whales and things of this sort, that this made available tremendous amounts of krill.
Krill are small shrimp-like animals, the major food source for Antarctic wildlife. Because of that, there are a lot of people studying the relationship between krill and Antarctic survival.
My name's Jeffrey Geipel, and I am a biologist for the Point Reyes Bird Observatory in Stinson Beach, California.
This is Jeffrey's 4th summer in Antarctica.
It's a long-range study. We're trying to follow individuals for their 5 years and hopefully it'll be able to tell us something about their breeding biology and the ecology of the area, and a little bit how that affects the krill population in the Antarctic.
One of the things that the studies have produced is a clear understanding of just how few penguins make it to adulthood. A couple of American scientists studying a rookery of Gen 2 penguins one year tagged 2,000 of that year's hatch. The scientists returned to the rookery the following year. Only 7 of the young birds did. The clear idea there is that only 7 survived.
By following individuals, we can determine exactly what the best strategy is for surviving in an environment like this.
The truth is, it's tough to survive. Men no longer slaughter them. Seals and predatory birds do. Still, the penguins remain comical, seemingly carefree, and in so many ways they look like strange little humans, laughing at everything that's thrown their way. After 2 weeks in the Antarctic, I arrive at one undeniable conclusion. The only thing more prevalent than penguins is ice. The continent is bigger than Europe and the U.S. together, but probably not a solid landmass. More likely a series of islands we may never know. It's all covered with ice. In some cases, the land is covered by 15,000 feet of ice. Aboard the Society Explorer, chunks of ice the size of Buicks rumble along the hull. Chunks of ice the size of large counties float past. This is navigation in Antarctic waters.
No problem. No problem for us. This ship is ice strengthened and has the highest ice class, and it's absolutely safe to go slowly.
The icebergs break off the different ice shelves which protrude out to sea from the Antarctic continent. Remember, 80% of these things are below the surface of the water, and the icebergs are made up of fresh water. An incredible source of fresh water if you could tap it. A Saudi prince wants to. Most reasonable scientists doubt he can. San Diego geologist Pam Bruder is among them.
I think it's a grand idea, but I don't see it being technologically possible.
The person who can figure out a way to make it technologically possible will get rich. You may have heard about the iceberg which broke away from the Ross ice shelf recently. It's 100 miles long and packing enough fresh water to take care of a city like San Diego for hundreds of years. If we can't tap the bergs for water, we can tap them for the mysteries of the earth. Example, each stripe represents a year's snowfall. Knowing that helps to track worldwide weather patterns.
How many years of snowfall do all these lines represent?
Thousands.
Thousands?
Yes, and sometimes hundreds of thousands.
Occasionally, a black stripe shows up in Antarctic ice. It's volcanic ash, a good indicator of when local volcanoes last erupted. Ice is as important to this region as sand is to the desert. It's a history book for scientists studying its intricacies. And at the same time, it's a vault door, hiding the continent's secrets. And for marine mammals, it's a place to haul out and rest, or a platform from which to hunt. This is a leopard seal, probably the nastiest marine mammal in these parts. They have jaws like an alligator, teeth like an alligator, but they're not nearly as friendly as alligators. That is, normally. This one was so sleepy he hardly knew we were there. Lucky, I'm told.
Let's swing it around and put it over here on this side, I think, Dave.
Seems funny, but small floating slabs of ice become, in essence, small floating cities. A penguin here, a crab-eater seal over there. Everything is friendly, so long as the leopard seals stay away.
Hey, seal! Seal! Whoa, Eddie.
Wallowing around on the ground like this goes with the territory of wildlife photographer Wolfgang Kahler. Kahler's Antarctic pictures have appeared in nearly every prestigious outdoor magazine you can think of. The BBC thought so much of Kahler's work, they named him their Wildlife Photographer of the Year. Glamorous honor, not always a glamorous job. To get the best penguin pictures, for example, you have to get at penguin level and crawl around in what penguins leave behind.
My wife is complaining at the beginning because our cabin was kind of a little bit smelly, but it's one thing you get used to. So. And afterwards you just wash up, but the photos at the end show it.
The results are worth the trouble. Pictures which show Antarctica as it can be at its best. Tranquil, pure, with an innocence that comes from lack of influence by man.
And human nature being what it is, people will try and have fun with just about anything they can, even icebergs. It's not unusual for some of the scientists and other people working in Antarctic during the summer to put on dry suits used for scuba diving, get some mountain climbing equipment, climb up on these things, and then slide off into the water.
No protective clothing for these folks. There are no polar bears in the Antarctic. There is a loosely knit polar bear club. Geothermally heated water trickles out of Deception Island. Likewise, the smiles are deceptive. This water ranges between real cold and real hot. Everything in Antarctica is extreme. The Society Explorer is a cruise ship. The red coats on board belong to tourists who've come to the end of the earth for their vacation. Many are amateur photographers, some are blossoming naturalists, and all are well-traveled adventurers who want to add stamps to their passports that very few people have. The Society Explorer has other people on board too. They are scientists who've come to the continent devoted to science. A couple of decades ago, 12 nations had the foresight to set the bottom of the globe aside as a laboratory.
Antarctica cannot be used for military purposes. It was also the first nuclear test ban agreement, which stated that there can be no storage of radioactive waste or any explosions on the continent. The next thing that it called for was that the continent shall be open to scientific research, and it requires that there be a free exchange of all scientific information.
Keeping the Antarctic for science may be tough. The treaty is open for comment and revision in 1991, and the exploitation of natural resources will undoubtedly be an issue at that time. For now, it's hands-off to mining, politics, nuclear testing and dumping and things like that. It is wide open to research.
Where is it you're planning on going, and what are you going to do there?
We're going to be going to Seal Island, which is a small, rocky island just offshore of Elephant Island.
The Antarctic summer is short. December, January, and February are the best chances for good weather. In this case, a cruise ship is the best chance to get to as remote a laboratory as exists, Seal Island.
One of the particularly interesting factors for us is that it's the site of an Antarctic fur seal rookery, and this is special because Antarctic fur seals are recovering from early 19th century exploitation.
There should be no fewer than 250 seal pups by the time the expedition arrives. Make that if it arrives. Antarctic landings are iffy at best, and this one has additional challenges.
Trying to put 4 people ashore on a tiny island in the middle of Antarctica is tough enough given the unpredictable nature of the weather. But when you add to it all of the equipment and things it takes to live and study for 3 months, it's nearly an impossible task. All of the things in front of me under the tarp have to go, as well as all of the things around me, and a lot more up on an upper deck. And it all has to go in zodiacs. Not an easy job.
Getting to Seal Island means maneuvering a 250-foot ship as close to shore as any skipper has ever gotten. These are uncharted waters, with lots of churning water, which suggests hidden obstacles. Captain Heinz Eye sends 2 rubber boats in front of his ship to take soundings with a portable depth finder. The weather is marginal already, and it's getting worse by the moment.
It's going to be a tough day.
A half-mile from the beach, the anchor and 2 scout boats go over the side. The boat drivers with the most Antarctic experience are sent looking for a suitable landing zone for the cargo. Speed counts.
What do you think, Julio? If you try this, somebody's going to get seriously hurt.
From where our ship is anchored, we can't see the beach. We can't see the trouble already facing one of the boats.
Achso, okay. They're just fighting to be alive.
A freak wave hit the boat while it was ashore,
Okay.
sending it 25 yards farther up the beach.
They're nearly capsized.
It takes some time, but everyone ashore is all right. And to everyone on board, the fate of the scientific party becomes clear.
Landing is definitely cancelled.
Please repeat.
Definitely no.
Definitely no. Where you are now?
There is good and bad this morning. The science party won't be able to go ashore at Seal Island, but the boat drivers have made it back safely.
My mother told me there'd be days like this.
Putting the expedition together has taken months and tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars. Getting the scientists ashore is simply a gamble, but then so is life in the Antarctic.
Boy, what a day. I'll buy you a beer. A cognac. A cognac and coffee.
The persistent howl of Antarctic wind racing across the continent. The grinding, patient trek of polar glaciers, etching a path with the weight of hundreds of thousands of years of ice. They form the contour of the land, assuring no tree can take root, no flower can withstand what Antarctica throws its way. There is little plant life, a few blades of hardy grass in spots, and several varieties of lichen. Antarctic redwoods, hundreds, even thousands of years, represented in a few centimeters of growth.
They can only work and make respiration or photosynthesis when they have enough water. So water is the most important problem of all the problems the lichens have here, not the cold temperature.
As insignificant as they may appear, these polar lichen are Burkhard Schrader's passion, his reason for enduring the Antarctic elements, his reason for this self-imposed loneliness. He's been away from his lichen for a year. He's back now. He's among the scientists the Society Explorer will bring and leave behind. Inside this greenhouse, plants with fewer mysteries, but still unique because they're the only flowering perennials in this region, the only celery, the only tomatoes.
This is the only station that has this. Only one. You must be very proud.
Janusz is a geologist from Poland. The greenhouse is therapy, something to keep him busy during the long, tedious hours between his study of polar geology. Our Stawski Polish Antarctic Station is the Club Med scientific facilities here, built with the warmth and comfort of a ski chalet, a place where visiting scientists and adventurers can share a glass of Polish vodka and hear about the hardships of a polar winter.
Winds, dark, snow, and frost. This problem.
Very much of an adventure, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Antarctica, the cold is a constant barrier to comfort, a constant reminder of places warmer. A major reason a year is the longest most people can take.
It's not just the cold in Antarctica that can drive a person away. The heat, at least in the case of Deception Island, can do the same thing. It only took 24 hours of eruptions to drive the British team away for good.
The deserted ruins are tranquil now. Nothing like the last few hours when researchers scrambled to get out amidst choking ash and the showering of hot volcanic rock. No one died. No one came back to stay. That was their lasting impression of a continent which can't help but tattoo the mind of anyone who experiences its beauty and mystique. The wildlife is so friendly, it's easy to forget. Some species can easily hurt you. Sometimes animals are so accepting of human intrusion, you forget they're equipped with ways of protecting themselves. Take the Cape petrel. It spends most of its life at sea, never resting, never coming ashore except to breed. It has few, if any, predators. It's ready, should there be one.
No, that one hasn't laid yet, but this one looks like it's got an egg. See there? Now, a potential predator coming in, trying to threaten this bird, is going to get a big surprise. And you see, it's very, very fine oil, and they can hit you from considerable distance.
Survival. Basic staying alive when the atmosphere tries to take life away. It's among the challenges facing the animals here. It's no less of a challenge for humans.